everyone. I think we have another episode that we want to share with you.
Right.
Another experience that we've had with some clients that we've dealt with as far as the probate situation was concerned.
Right.
I want you to think back. We had a client, which I thought was very interesting. It was a cousin, and the cousin actually ended up being the administrator for the estate. So the way it worked was, you had the husband who had passed away probably 10 years prior to the wife passing. The husband didn't have any prior children, nor did the husband and wife have any children. And then the house went directly to his wife because they held it in joint tenancy.
All right.
Important as to how you hold your title, it's ownership.
And would not recommend joint tenancy, in a lot of situations.
Well, what would it be?
Well, community property is a good one.
With community property.
Or you can have, with the right of survivorship, but joint tenancy, you have two parties, one dies, their portion is automatically inherited by the other surviving spouse, so a lot of times.
Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it if it's just a husband and wife and then you have children together.
But if you have children,
it becomes an issue when your portion goes to a wife and you have other children outside the marriage.
Right.
Right. If you had other intentions as to what you wanted to do with your house. We'll get into the title issues as to how you can hold it down the line. But in this particular, under these circumstances, I remember that the client, she was female, she had just passed away, she was married, she had a husband who didn't have any children. She didn't have any children.
Right.
So what happens there? They, for all intents and purposes, they had no, in their mind probably, they had no reason to put the house in the trust or anything.
Right. Because there were no heirs.
Right. So, I mean, it was like, who are we?
Who are we leaving? Exactly.
It is what it is.
Right.
So what you have to realize is that even if you're in a situation like that and you have no heirs, meaning no children, then the courts have to determine, well, who would the house go to?
Right.
And so the first question would be, okay, even though the husband passed away and it went to his wife, and then they had no children, he had no prior children, she had no prior children, then what happens? So now the court has to step in and determines who's going to become the administrator of the estate and administer everything.
And who's going to inherit the estate, based on intestacy laws, and with the intestacy laws, typically the spouse has the top priority, then it'll go to the kids. If no kids are present, then it goes to the parents or grandparents. And then no parents, then it goes to the siblings, siblings issues, meaning nieces or nephews, all the way down to distant cousins, which brings us to this situation.
Right, so in this particular situation, we had one cousin who was administering wanted to become the administrator of the estate, but felt as though it was going to be too much. So you had another cousin who was also responsible, who became the administrator of the estate.
Right.
And said that they would take care of everything.
Right, and they did.
Typically, when you see a probate situation, I think a lot of people are worried about, how much is this going to cost?
Right.
How am I going to sell this house?
Right.
And then, realizing that they may be an heir because they were like nieces and nephews, or however that worked out in their situation. All I know is it was two cousins who handled the estate, which meant that they were related by their parents, of course.
Right.
And so, which probably were siblings.
Right.
The parents that were siblings had passed away, so it goes down to their children at that point.
Right.
And so the one cousin who was responsible, who started off the probate situation, they were concerned about costs.
Right.
I can't afford anything. My budget is tight.
Right.
I can't.
I
can't do nothing.
They had other obligations,
Other obligations, and it was going to be too much from a financial perspective in her mind.
Right.
The other cousin said, okay, well, we could, we have a little bit of money. We could do a little bit and, get things, straight and get them to where they needed to be in order to make the sale.
Right.
And that's exactly what happened. The other thing that I would have to say that about this particular situation was, it was good that the family members got along, apparently.
Right, right.
You know,
a rare situation.
It's very rare in this business.
Rare
you know,
situation.
two cousins who was working together for the good of everyone.
Right.
You know,
right.
And as you know, the cousin who said she would handle everything became the administrator of the estate.
Right.
They had to mail out all the correspondence to let the creditors, our prospective creditors know, publish it in special papers, and then also had to let all the known beneficiaries know.
Right.
And so they had to let them know in case anyone objected to her being the administrator.
Right.
And so nothing occurred in that particular scenario. You can say that this one cousin who took responsibility did enough to make sure that the house was sellable.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And that was it. And that was actually a good case.
It was a good case.
We're using this example just to let you know that even if you don't have any children,
right.
if you don't
no direct
have anyone
heirs,
you leave
right.
it to, no favorite nieces or nephews,
right.
And you leave everything in limbo by leaving nothing in writing, the courts have to step in and decide how is this going to be distributed.
Right.
We don't know how the uncle may have felt. We don't know how the aunt may have felt about the eventual two cousins who handled the estate.
Administration.
But you have to keep that in mind that at all times you need to put your property in a trust, designate someone to be a successor trustee.
Right.
And, you know, like I had mentioned before, one of the good things about a trust is not only does it put the assets into a trust, but there's a medical directive
right.
in there that states, you know, if something was to happen to me, I want this person to make decisions for me.
Right.
Or this person can sign off on my paperwork or get medical records and so forth.
Power
so
of
that's
attorney.
very important. And there's a power of attorney where a person could take over as well. So that's important. So even if you don't have any children, no favorite cousins and nieces, you could at least put some responsible people into that trust to handle your affairs in case things go awry.
Right.
I mean, don't no one know how they're gonna graduate from this life.
Right.
You know, some people, you know, leave quick. Some people leave slow. Some people
leave violently.
They leave violently. Some people, you know, are not in their right mind.
Right.
So there's a lot of different situations you have to take in consideration in understanding that you need to take care of your business.
Right.
And at least get a living trust at bare minimum.
Bare minimum. And that leads me to what you had said, or what you had mentioned earlier, you know, with the cost of probate.
Yeah.
You know, I like how you explain things to people. I'm pretty sure our audience, they like how you explain things too. But how would you explain to a potential client the fees that go into probate? You know,
I'm glad you asked that question because that's a big concern for most people because they think probate is so expensive, which it is.
Yes.
But you know, most people believe that they have to come up with a lot of money up front, and that is not the case if you're working with good probate attorneys.
Right.
Most probate attorneys get paid on the back end. On the front end, they may charge you for the filing fees.
Right.
And filing fees, you know, they're not that expensive.
Right.
But, you know, a good attorney would say, okay, well, we may need X amount of dollars, maybe $1,000 or $2,000 just for the filing fees.
Right.
But they get paid on the back end. And the way it works is there's a formula as far as probate. And the way they get paid is they get 4% based on the first 100,000 that of the estate value. Then on the second 100,000 is 3%.
Right.
And then on the next 800,000 is 2%.
Right.
So what does that mean? Let me break it down a little more.
And just to before you break that down, these are also administration fees as well. Like these are attorney fees, but this also includes administration fees.
Well, what he's saying is that the administrator can get paid the same as the attorney,
right?
In a lot of cases. So when you break the fees down, let's assume that a house is worth $1 million. Let's just go to $1 million.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Then that means the first 100,000 was at 4%, which means it's 4,000.
Mm-hmm.
The second 100,000 is 3%, which is 3,000. So now we're at 7,000.
Right.
And so that means it's 800,000 left to get to the $1 million. So that means it's 2% of the 800,000. So that means 7 plus 16. Okay, 7 and 16 is what?
23.
23,000. So that's what that particular payout would be as far as probate.
Right.
If it's a $1 million estate. Now, once you exceed $1 million, the percentage goes down. I believe it drops to 1% or
1% for the 9 million.
It's 1%.
And the 9 for the
1%
next 9 million,
up to
1%,
9 million.
and then half for 15 million.
Right. So that's how it works. I was just giving you an idea what it would look like for the first $1 million, because a lot of people probably fall in that category.
Right.
They're, concerned about the cost, but I can tell you, you don't have to come up with the 23 up front.
Right. And they don't get paid until the end. What would till the case is closed in the final distribution.
Right. So that's something to understand. So again, the attorneys may say, okay, I can't front you the application, the filing fees, I should say.
Right.
Not application, but the filing fees.
For the petition.
But for the petition and everything else that may come about.
Right.
But, we have to charge that up front, and then we get paid on the back end. So it depends on the attorney. You have some attorneys who've been in business forever. They may have a line of credit where they may front that cost for you as long as you go with them, because you're going to commit to them. And then they'll get that money on the back end plus whatever the filing fees are.
Right.
They can pay off their line, or if they have a special account that they use to help clients with the upfront filing fees, that's what it is. So it's not very expensive up front. It's just that the whole process is costly when you compare it to getting the trust. Now, if the decedent had gotten the trust, you got attorneys who's charging anywhere from $1,500, $5,000, maybe even more, depending on the estate.
Right.
I think the average cost is going to be somewhere closer to $5,000.
You need $5,000
on average, which is why people say it's expensive. But compare that $5,000 compared to $23,000.
Right.
I mean,
that's serious. That's serious.
And then you having everything taken care of the way you wanted it to be taken care of.
Right. Don't have to worry about any delays, in case you feel like probate is expensive and you're representing yourself as pro per.
Right.
That could be more costly, and it causes delays, instead of going with the attorney off the bat.
Right. It's one thing that you have to understand. If you want things done in a timely manner and an efficient manner, then you want to deal with attorneys.
Right.
If you want to do it yourself, you got to understand you have to complete the paperwork correctly. You have to you got to go to the right courts. You got to pay the right fees, and they do have people that kind of help you there, and you can get it done. But it's just like what I always tell people: stay in your lane. I'll let the attorneys do their job.
Right.
Just like when I go to the car wash, I let the man wash my car. And if I have a gardener, I let the gardener take care of his business.
Right.
And I could wash my car. I have a gardener. I can cut my yard.
You can cut. You for sure know how to cut the lawn. I know how to cut the lawn.
Exactly. I can change my brakes.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But guess what? I don't want to do that. My time is well spent at what I do.
Right.
I do real estate financing. I do real estate sales.
Right.
I do a little kind of financial, I wouldn't say planning, I believe advisory, meaning, kind of help you to plan for your retirement and so forth.
Budgeting.
So budgeting and all that good stuff. So that's what I do. And I'm good at that.
Right.
So, me getting out to cut the yard, it's going to take so much time. It take an hour or so. Me washing my car, it's going to take another hour.
Yeah, you getting up there too, Pop, so you ain't got time.
I don't have time for all that. And then, you want to spend time with yourself and enjoy things.
Right.
So that's why I say that. I mean, I'm capable of changing the brakes in my car. I used to do that in college when I didn't have no money.
As a disclaimer,
I used to change. Look,
this man can figure out a lot of things. I will say that. On camera, you capable of figuring out a lot of things. I've seen it.
Yeah, but it's just like, does it make sense for me to do it?
Right.
Is it time efficient?
Right.
So I'll let the people do what they do.
Right.
And trust me, when he said I figured things out, I didn't fixing pipes at the house in the beginning when I was young and didn't have no money. So bless me.
I can vouch for that.
I mean, trust me, I understand that you can figure it out and do it, but is it being done efficiently?
Right.
Is it being done in a timely manner?
Right.
And me, I prefer to let the professionals do it because that's what they do, and I know it's going to be done right.
Right.
And that's what you're paying for.
And on the side note too, probate can be free if you qualify, you know, for like if you're receiving EBT, Medi-Cal, things of that nature. Or
you mean the filing fees?
Yeah, the filing fees. Yeah, not. Let me clarify. See, that's all. The filing fees. You know, for a lot of fee waivers, you can qualify for fee waivers. You know, depending on you know, your household. If you earn, you know, if your household earnings is less than what the fees are, you know, then they'll be able to waive the fees and things like that.
Well, I'll tell you this. If you do qualify, I'm pretty sure the attorneys will let you know.
Right.
Because, you know, the attorneys we work with are good attorneys.
Right.
So they would let you know. If you don't qualify, they still may be able to help you out in getting the money to make the filing
Right.
of the file.
Yeah, because they'll front you some money.
Yeah, they may.
They may.
You never know, it's not a promise. But for the most part, it's not as expensive up front as you may think.
Right. Yeah, I think up front, you know, it might range from $1,500, $2,500 just for all the fees you gotta file for the publications in the newspaper, for the petition, for the ex parte, the closing of the petition. You're looking about somewhere in between, you know, paying the probate referee, because you have to pay the probate referee.
What is a probate referee?
The probate referee, you know, it's just someone who's appointed by the court to appraise the property within the estate. You know, typically they'll just go to the address of the decedent who passed away. They'll take a photo of the property. They won't do a full appraisal. You know, typically, you know, when we're doing appraisals, they're checking everything. You know, for a probate referee, they're just checking the outside of the home and the marketplace for wherever the home is situated at.
So what they're doing is they driving by, taking photos, and then they're looking at market data to tell you what the houses have been selling for in that area.
Right.
So if it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath,
right,
that's the value that he's going to pretty much assign the house to. Now, we have to be careful there. Because what we do is, you have to understand this. If the market is showing houses selling for $1 million, for example, and your house happened to be in that area, the comparison is, okay, those $1 million houses, how do they look compared to the house that's going for sale?
Right.
That's coming out of probate.
Right.
Now, the houses that are selling for $1 million, for example, are probably completely upgraded.
Modernized. We know we love a modern house.
Completely remodeled, upgraded,
right,
state of the art.
Right, yeah.
And then you have your house, even though it's in the same neighborhood, that has never been upgraded.
Right.
It's not state of the art. So you can't say that house is worth $1 million. You know, but the referee may say something like that because he's just driving by. It might look decent on the outside because he hadn't been on the inside. And so what you have to take into consideration is, where is your house at? What would it take to bring your house in its current condition up to that $1 million
right
place? And so that's what's important.
Right.
And so, you know, what is the cost? What is the work that it would take to get
and that reminds me too, and that's a good testament to how you always do a good job, because that reminds me of the one situation we had where the home was for better words, you know, it was just terrible. It was a disaster.
Oh, yeah.
But you had let the attorney know who was representing the case that it was a disaster, and she in turn then let the probate referee know, and that's how we was able to actually list the home for what it was actually worth, you know.
Well, going back to that story, you remember the house was tore up on the inside. Tore up. I mean,
missing floors.
I'm just like, I don't see too many people living in there unless you were homeless and you just didn't have no other place to live.
Right.
That's the kind of condition we were looking at.
Right.
The bathroom was in terrible condition.
Man.
The kitchen was, oh my goodness, it was terrible.
It was.
The cabinets hanging, the faucet falling out the wall.
Sink rotted out.
The sink is rotted out. I mean, it would be a terrible situation for someone to live in.
For sure.
And so, in that particular scenario, I think the houses in the area were selling for about $620.
Yeah, it was. Good area, a rising area.
It was decent.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we listed that house, I think it was like $480, $485.
$485.
Because it was going to take that amount of work just to bring it up to speed. It was going you needed to drop 200 into that house.
For sure.
And so, the reason you want to talk to experienced agents like ourselves is because, not only do we sell to the public, but we have a list of flippers, we have a list of developers that are always looking for properties.
Right.
And we help them to find those properties. And so in this particular instance, the market was high. Mm-hmm. And we talked to one of our developers who was actually developing in that area. Mm-hmm. And, they actually paid about $620 for that house.
And we listed at $485.
And there's no way a regular person would be able to get financing because the house was not in that kind of state. I mean, it was.
For sure.
When I say it was in terrible shape, it was in terrible shape. But to the developer, it didn't matter. It was like land value to them because they was going to knock the house down.
As they did.
Demolish it.
Right.
They was going to build it from the ground up. They just needed to make sure that the lot was of certain dimensions. And it wasn't going to be a single family. It was going to put units there.
Right.
And so you have to, know who you're dealing with. You have to know where the house fits.
Right.
And how you can get the highest price to your clients.
Right.
And that's something that we do.
Right.
We help, as a matter of fact, with
we over-deliver.
All the properties that we've sold.
All of them.
All of them have been over the price that we listed the property at. And that's a good record to have.
It was a fantastic record to have. That's why if you find yourself in probate and you need help with the sale of a home, reach out to Inheritance Realty. We'll make sure that, everything is taken care of.
Yeah, and we're going to go ahead. We're going to analyze the situation. We're going to assess everything. We're going to see, how we can best get you the price that you deserve and go from there. And trust me, we go to work for you. For sure,
mm-hmm. For sure. And so don't try to short us on that, on the listing, on the,
Oh, no. No, this...
I can't even think of it right now.
It's a funny thing. You see in the news that people are talking about agents get paid too much money.
Commission.
As far as their commission. And I think what people fail to understand is that when you list the property at a certain price, there's a percentage that is negotiated that you would pay as far as the commission to sell your house.
Right.
And with that percentage that's negotiated, the listing office typically share that money with the selling office, the person who brought in the buyer.
Right.
So, I can't say that they're being paid too much because there's a lot of legal ramifications that go into this. And there's a lot of work that go into listing the property, dealing with buyers, dealing with the other agent, dealing with escrow, dealing with title, getting reports, making sure disclosures is going out so that no one gets sued.
Right.
And we talking about from the seller to the buyer to the agents involved.
Right.
So there's a lot of work. There's a lot of legal language in the paperwork that you need to understand. So I would say that most agents deserve what they get paid.
For sure.
So, people will come in and say, oh, well, is your commission negotiable? I said, well, everything's negotiable. But let me ask you a question. I said, if you went to work today and your boss came to you and said, I want you to do the same work you've been doing, but I need you to take a pay cut, how would you feel? I mean, tell me. You're doing a certain job, you're doing more work, and it is You know, it may have occurred.
That's real,
and
though.
then at some
That's
point,
real.
matter of fact, we need to add more to your plate.
Right.
And I need to make you take a pay cut. How would you feel about that? I would say that with the top agents, in most cases, they're not going to really negotiate with you because they know their worth.
Right.
Just like you should know your worth at work.
Right.
And so, you know, for you to come up and ask someone like us to take a pay cut, it's like looking in a mirror.
Right.
If your boss came and asked you to take a pay cut and gave you more work, I don't think you'd be too happy about it. So I think that's what he wanted.
That's what I was trying to say. Yeah, don't cheat us on the commission fees. That's all I was trying to say. But you know, you explained it so well, Pop, and you know, I always love that analogy that you use with the boss. You know, because it's real. You know, and that make people think. Yeah. But you know, I think that was a real informative episode. You know, just talking about the fees that went into probate. Mm-hmm. You know, our experiences with these things, and you know, I think the people should be really informed, you know, just as far as the probate fees going on. Yeah. If you're out in the Los Angeles area and you find yourself in probate and need help with the sale of a home, give us a call at 1-800-720-9788, and we look forward to helping.